you ever watched an episode of the reality show Undercover Boss? The owner or CEO goes in disguise as a regular employee to see what really goes on within their company. The leader often sees things that need to change. More than once I've heard the lament, "If only someone had told me." This show proves a natural law of leadership. People at the top of an organization or a nation live in a bubble. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Ken Blanchard wrote these insightful words in his groundbreaking book, The 1-Minute Manager. Allow me to add value to Mr. Blanchard's often shared wisdom that relates to your workplace culture. Honest feedback is the key for making your invisible visible. This is advice I use to remind leaders about their commitment and obligation to always improve their team and organization's culture, since culture is a primary contributor to profitability, employee and customer loyalty, and overall excellence. What is meant by the invisible? I will let Bob explain what this concept means in his own words. "I painfully realized too late that I was not the good leader I thought I was. Last month, I lost both my best salesman and a vital product manager to a competitor, something I never ever expected. When the director of human resources asked each one why they were leaving, they both cited the same reason: me. They felt demeaned and minimized because I continually failed to honor their contributions and hard work. After I heard that, I needed to see if this was a simple misunderstanding, which I thought it was. I asked the HR person to conduct a survey of everyone who worked for me to describe how I was perceived as their boss, specifically in the area of giving recognition and rewarding good work, things that I thought I did. What I discovered was, if the surveys were a grade school report card, I rated an F-. That hurt. This survey also revealed that the entire business unit I manage is best described as an environment where no one really recognizes each other's contributions. Ouch. After much gut-wrenching self-analysis and consulting with my mentor on the executive team and with the HR director who conducted the survey, I now realize that this uncaring culture all starts with me. Because I don't recognize people's contributions at all, no one else treats recognition as important. Now, everywhere I look, I clearly see that I missed obvious warning signs about this widespread attitude of taking each other for granted. I should have used these indicators to notice that we needed to improve, but I was clueless because I believed one thing and blinded myself to the reality of our true culture. Now, sadly, I have lost two good people, and I sense a widespread lack of loyalty to me and to this entire company. I only wished I had someone who would have opened my eyes to what was invisible to me. Who knows? Maybe my people tried, but it's too late for Bob to change his ways, but it is not for you. As for Bob, the board of directors later fired him because his division lost millions of dollars in sales, due entirely to the astronomically high employee turnover in his business unit. I'm going to now share with you the tool for obtaining honest feedback. I completed a project with a client where this tool came in handy. My role was to gain insights into the existing culture and compare my findings against what the leaders thought their culture was like. What I uncovered and opened their eyes to was a hostile work environment that they had fostered. After I opened the doors and the windows to expose what they were unable or unwilling to see, I shared with them the importance of transforming what was wrong before their assets and intellectual capital all walked out the door or they got sued. In summary form, this process is to make the invisible visible. By using this tool, you don't need to go underground disguised as one of your employees. So very quickly, I will go through the steps. Step 1, have a professional facilitator who is objective and not invested in your corporate culture conduct a face-to-face survey of a high percentage of your employees. This can be done by an outside consultant or an employee from another part of your organization. I suggest targeting between 25 and 30% of all employees. Yes, it's a high level, but you'll understand why. Inform the employees in advance that your intent of these interviews is to get a better understanding of the current mood of your corporate culture. Have the facilitator ask each employee to suggest up to 10 specific descriptors that would describe the corporate culture they experience each day. The descriptors could be the form of adjectives, phrases, or even sayings that employees use to describe the work environment or their job, or maybe the prevailing coworker attitudes. Step 2. This takes a little bit of work, yet it is an important step. Have this facilitator gather all the descriptors together into one document. Combine similar descriptors, but do not edit or change the employee's words. Finally, place the descriptors into alphabetical order. You will note that their descriptors range from very positive to extremely negative, and from neutral to emotional. With this list, you will immediately spot trends that indicate the general mood of your employees at this particular moment of time. Make sure that the facilitator is the one to do the combining, listing, and alphabetizing. Step 3 of this process. Have the facilitator take the list and cull it down to no more than 50 descriptors. 25 to 30 descriptors is ideal. These descriptors should be at both extremes, at the positive and the negative. The list must include the ones that were repeated most often by the employees who contributed their comments. Step 4. Schedule meetings with all employees. It would be a plus if this can be an all-hands meeting, but if your organization is too large, schedule smaller meetings so that every employee has an opportunity to attend one. At this meeting, place the top descriptors listed on the walls. Early in this meeting, give the employees time to look at the list of descriptors that are on the wall. This meeting must be conducted by an outside facilitator, hopefully the one that did the surveys, because you are very likely perceived as part of the problem. And if employees feel that you are there to beat them up for expressing their honest opinion about your culture, you will remove whatever trust they have in you. Your job in this meeting is threefold. First, as employees look over the list of descriptors, notice their reactions and the ones that seem to resonate the most with them. It'll be very obvious in their words and in their body language. Second, explain your intention is to improve the corporate culture, and you will be changing the aspects that are not positive. Point them out, especially the negative ones, the ones that need changing, and then point out the positive ones that you want to capitalize on. Your third action is to inform the employees that an independent third party will conduct a company-wide survey to gauge how deeply these feelings run among all employees. Assure them that the information will be used for positive change only, and you really honor their honest opinion. Inform employees how the survey will be conducted and their response window. Don't give them too much time to think about their responses. 7 to 10 days is appropriate. Inform employees of the process used for making sure their answers are kept confidential and that there will be no attribution of their responses. Finally, introduce the third party who will conduct the survey. The fifth step is to prepare a simple survey that lists the common descriptors. Design a feeling response gauge on a scale of 1 to 6. This is where your employee will give you his or her reaction to the descriptor. On my scale, I use reactions that range from I strongly disagree to I somewhat disagree to I somewhat agree to I strongly disagree. Please notice that my range of 1 to 6 does not correspond to the 4 feedback options because this method allows the employee to give in-between responses. An employee might put her response between I strongly agree and I somewhat agree. If you opt for a wider range of reactions, be sure that your numerical scale is an even number and no more than 8 choices. An even scale prevents the employee from taking a I'm not sure position, such as sitting on the fence between agreeing and disagreeing with a descriptor. Allow the responders to opt out of answering All of them, because there will be some words they like and some words they don't care about. Employees will self-select the ones that are most meaningful to them. Step 6. Once the deadline has passed for the surveys to be completed, ask the independent collector to provide you with a report that summarizes and compiles the various numerical responses for each of the descriptors. You want to concentrate your attention to the outliers, those descriptors that are on the extremes of each end of the feeling spectrum. If you use the scale of 1 to 6, the descriptors that are in the 2.5 to 4.5 ranges are not the ones you need to be concerned about right now. The descriptors scoring at the extremes in the high 5s, 6s, or the low 1s to 2s, you need to accept as fact and do something about. In this report, you now have the honest feedback that you need to understand what your culture is currently like. You will quickly spot trends, especially problem areas, and the great aspects of your culture, the things that you want to emphasize. Now realize, no culture is perfect, and no culture is entirely flawed. So you will have good and bad descriptors, and my hope is that overall, people are only slightly displeased with the problems and very satisfied with what is working well. The final step is step 6.5. The most critical action you must now take with this information is to institute positive changes quickly. You now have that breakfast of champions feedback from the invisible parts of your organization about the story that employees enact each day. You must make these changes a priority because I guarantee this will occur soon after the survey's completion. The first time an employee is reprimanded for an inappropriate behavior, the rumor mill will say, "John is being penalized for being honest. Watch out." If employees do not see any changes as a result of providing you with feedback into the invisible, they will grow cynical and distrustful of you. So ensure that employees actually see and experience positive improvements as a result of their feedback very quickly, or you will have just opened Pandora's box, and I guarantee nothing positive will happen after that. And this is the reason that this last step is only 6.5. You are only beginning a journey that will take time and effort to complete. Finally, this survey can deliver good news too. I was involved in another coaching project where the leadership team discovered that pride is an important element of their culture story. Now, while these executives suspected this because the company is 100 years young, they did not realize the depth that their employees took this to heart. Pride was the story that was being enacted each day, and yet this was invisible to the leaders. One of the commitments the CEO made to me, his coach, was to ensure that whatever improvements he made to his culture would not tarnish or damage the pride that the employees felt about the company, its products, and its heritage. Please feel free to share this information with your colleagues. Send me your questions about the critical topics of leadership and culture.